Condensate pump for a heating and air conditioning, and what a condensate pump looks like. This little gadget here is a condensate pump. To the right we can see we have a little orifice that's open. This is where your tube would slide over and the pump would pump it out and say uphill or wherever sideways and exit the house or wherever you wanted it to do. You don't want the moisture to touch the drywall, etc. But this is and one may wonder, well, why do I need this? There's a couple reasons. Hypothetically, if you had a heating and air conditioning in the attic, in the summer months when the A coil begins to sweat and when moisture becomes off of the A coil, and I may be wrong, but and don't quote me on this, but it seems like I heard one guy say when the temperature is colder than the dew point, then the moisture accumulates. Well, the moisture comes out of a pipe, usually a 3/4 inch pipe that would look something like this, a PVC pipe. Well, then at some point you need somewhere for the moisture to go. Well, that's fine if you have a place where you can gravity feed it downhill, and it gravity feeds downhill and exits the building, whether that be a house, a building, etc. But if you have an area where you need the moisture to go uphill, you may need a little help, and this is where this little gadget here comes in, called a condensate pump. So we know we have a one hole here, one hole here, one hole here. So if we took this pipe here and we could slide this pipe right in here, then the moisture would drain in, and the bottom is a pan. So then what happens? Subsequent to draining in here, what happens is the pan gets a X amount of water in it, gets full. When the water gets full, it acts like a sump pump. So just kind of hypothetically think of this as like a miniature sump pump. So what happens when it gets full and it pushes the float up, or however it does the float in the bottom of the pan, which would be down here, the reservoir, and when it pushes the float up, it kicks the motor on. So, and the motor probably being in here, at some point we'll take this thing apart and assess the motor. So then what happens when it gets full, say the water comes in here or here or here, and then begins to fill this up. Well, then what happens, the pump comes on and the pump pumps it here, so it would exit here and go up here and out a hose out to the side of the building. So this is basically how a condensate pump works. It's just a little pump that would pump your moisture uphill or wherever you need it to pump. So, and if you didn't pump it uphill and the pan fills up, and if you don't have a cutoff switch on the pan, then what happened, it could crest over, and then water could go over the pan. If it were in the attic, it could stain the drywall, it could drip down through the ceiling. There are many different variables. So if you need one of these, it's highly suggestible. Every so often, in my opinion, every 2 to 3 years, it may not be a bad idea just to replace this as a general maintenance. And if you replace it as a general maintenance, then you know the motor stays strong, etc. So because they can get old, and as in the case in point right here, and they can just clog up with gunk in here. So this is a condensate pump, and a condensate pump takes the moisture that drips off of the A coil, perhaps mostly during the summer months, but and then what it does, it gets the moisture and pumps the moisture out. So a condensate pump for heating and air conditioning. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.